Hello and welcome to the PowerPoint all about photograms. Today I'm going to talk about a little bit of the history of photograms, and you're going to get to see some examples as well as the process that's involved. Everyone will be making their own photograms in the darkroom, and it's very similar to something that we did on the very first day, which were these sun prints. So let's get started. The history of photograms. Photograms were probably the earliest form of creating any kind of image using light-sensitive material. So here we have Henry Fox Talbot, who made photogenic drawings in the 19th century, and German artist Christian Schad making shadographs after World War I using found objects. So this was very early 19th century, just to give you an idea of the time of when photograms kind of came along. It was after the camera was invented, of course. However, this is just an example of a new type of creating imagery. Next, we have the basic concept of creating a photogram. Here we have objects placed on light-sensitive paper in the upper left-hand corner, and then in the lower right-hand corner is sort of what you can expect from exposing this light-sensitive paper with the objects on top of that paper to light, and then developing it in the darkroom. A little bit more of the history. Man Ray was a surrealist artist. He did a lot of photography as well as these photograms and a lot of very dreamlike imagery in his rayographs, as you can see here. Here he's using translucent and opaque materials to make these images. And so on the left-hand side, it sort of seems like he's got folded paper that is kind of cut in interesting ways that's also kind of giving way to certain shadows, and there's quite a variety of value. The next one on the right-hand side, we have Lucia Moholy and Laszlo Moholy-Nagy making their photograms in their experiments of light and form devoid of personal attachments. So there's some very conceptual things going on there when they talk about devoid of personal attachments. So it's kind of meant to draw you out of your reality, as photographs typically do, by depicting reality. So a photogram, just to give us a definition here, it is a type of contact print photograph made without a camera by positioning one or more objects between the light source and the photographic film or paper and then exposing the paper to white light. Objects can leave white or gray shadows and imprints on the paper. Opaque objects can leave these white areas, whereas transparent and translucent objects leave shades of gray. So here we have an example, and this is actually the opposite, or a negative version of objects, because here you could see that the dark objects are the ones that are laid on top of the paper and then exposed. And so in the results, you will get the opposite of what Anne Bernard, number 13 here shows. Photograms can also be very original and individual works of art. Once objects are removed, it's nearly impossible to create the same print. So that lends to quite a variety. One of the areas of photography most conducive to experimentation and manipulation are the photograms. So that means that you can do tons of experiments and manipulations, creating, different types of lighting and light sources, additional light sources. There's really endless possibilities about what you can do here. We are going to stick with the basics, and as you get used to the whole process, then you'll begin to learn how to experiment with it a little bit more, as you could see some of these artists are doing. So in the example here of photogenic, we have Lot Jacobi, and so here it almost looks like there's like this ghost-like figure where there could even be a sense of movement happening. Not really sure what the image is. It's just kind of like this ghost-like, very open to interpretation kind of composition. Here we have an example of a couple different objects, such as film, and then we have the fern leaf. Here on the right-hand side, where we have the film, you guys haven't worked too much with film yet, but those of you who have seen it before know that negatives, or the film, once it's been developed, is kind of the opposite. And so when the light projects through the film, you get like that positive. So here in particular, you can see where this girl is in the picture, where it looks like the real thing, using black and white films. And then when the film is overlapped, we kind of get less detail and things like that, but it kind of lends to a bit of a three-dimensional kind of curl, where we can almost make out, you know, what the actual image looks like. Here's a couple other examples. These make me think that the process that the artist used was possibly using dolls, or using some sort of paper cutouts of these figures to lay on the light sensitive paper, and then the area around the figures, it has like that great texture to it, and so it looks like they may have painted on the developer, and so so that's where they're getting like that really rough kind of edge on the outside here, like especially in the second image here, you can see that here, you know, if whatever it is that you're laying down can kind of lend to, you know, a very interesting kind of story, depending on, you know, the kind of character or really the story that you want to tell. This is kind of a cool example. I think on the lower left-hand corner here, you can see that there's like a little bit of lace. Fabric can be very interesting when you're creating a photogram, and so, you know, we've got certain lacy, maybe string-like objects here that sometimes you can't really predict what's exactly going to happen unless it's just a flat object. But what happens when you put three-dimensional objects on top of the paper and expose it to light? Chances are you might get something that's very ghost-like and kind of non-descriptive, as you can see here. In this example, it looks like there's almost like a slinky-like form coming up here. There's almost kind of like this little alien something. I'm not sure what that is, but it kind of lends to some kind of a story, and kind of the combination of images leads to some kind of an interpretation. I think everyone can probably guess what's in the lower right-hand corner. If you take a lot of those candies, like Lifesavers that are wrapped in cellophane, then here you can see maybe they're sitting in like a glass bowl or something, which is then has been placed on top of the light sensitive paper. Then here it looks like there might be a gummy bear or something in the corner here, but you can see how transparent objects, or objects that are kind of see-through, such as Lifesavers, can still create an interesting appearance. These are some great examples where we've got some flowers. You're welcome to use maybe some of the plastic fake flowers that are in the classroom. But I would really like you guys to experiment when you do bring in your own objects to do this project, and really experiment and see what you can do. The nice thing about these and these flowers is that you've got a lot of consistency and unity. So each one of these is its own photogram. So for example, this one in the center, the top center, you've got all of these different daisies and stuff. And so, and where they're overlapped, where we've got, you know, some really bright whites versus those medium to dark grays, they're, it's just kind of how the objects are kind of placed on top of each other and how opaque they are. I think that's also evident in this lower right-hand corner, where you could see that the petals are a little bit larger, and perhaps where the petals of each flower is overlapping. I think that's where you can get, you can see, you know, that it really covers up the light sensitive paper, and so the more that it covers it up, the brighter white it will be. Okay, just a couple other examples, more flowers. I think those lend to some pretty interesting results. And so what I find to be really interesting here is, say, when the light is wrapping around certain objects, as you can see here in the stems of the flowers, it's not just like a flat shape, right? So it's kind of got that light is wrapping around these objects. I think you could see that here as well. And so where the actual petals are touching the paper, there's no light getting through, but that light always reaches around the object, especially if you're working with three-dimensional things and laying them on top of the paper. Another example, we've just got what looks like some string and perhaps a gold chain of some sort. Looks like a bracelet or a necklace, which it almost looks like it's creating like this three-dimensional surface where it doesn't look so flat. I guess this object here, which would be the bracelet, this would be more in the foreground, whereas, you know, this string or this twisted wire that's sitting in the back, the pieces that are farther away, you can see, are really blurry and pretty dark gray, whereas the pieces that are actually touching the paper have that really bright white appearance to it. And so that value change kind of gives you that three-dimensional quality. Okay, so here we have a couple objects, like little toy alligators, it looks like, again, some wire or some hair or string or something like that, and even more objects that are kind of nondescript. And so, you know, we don't always have to tell, you know, what the actual object is. I think it could be more interesting when it's more of a mystery and it's more open to interpretation at that point. So here you have a couple other examples. This is just kind of a fun one that are different objects that make up different letters. You could spell out your name using different objects and things like that if you really wanted to. And, you know, you could really make an interesting composition that's not just kind of an experiment. You can think about the sun prints that we did. Think about any kinds of objects that, you know, you come across during the day, whether it's, you know, a folded up piece of paper, or if it's, you know, something that you find in your backpack or something even left over from your lunch or something. You can bring it into the darkroom and, you know, just kind of experiment with, you know, how it's going to look. As I record this, I'm kind of looking around at the objects that are on my desk, and I have a dog toy here from Buckley, and I think it would be kind of interesting to bring that in because it's kind of transparent. It's got holes in it, but in the thicker areas, it could, you know, add some really cool shapes. And so I might bring that in to show you guys when I do a demonstration here. I hope Buckley doesn't mind too much, but we'll see. Okay, so your assignment. You are going to create 6 photograms. I'll let you know about the shape, or not the shape, but the size of the paper. I'll be giving that all to you, and I'll be doing a hands-on demonstration here. I just wanted to kind of give you this information as a way to kind of go through everything. And so for one of them, I'd like you to use the alphabet somehow, whether you just use one letter or 2. You could do your initials. You could do JTHS, whatever you want to do. A little school spirit is always fun. And so that's kind of your first assignment there, just like your first photogram would be to use the alphabet in some way. The next, I'd like you to use those plastic flowers that are in my room. And so you can, you know, put those in any kind of order. If you wanted to stick with the same kind of flower, or if you wanted to switch it up a little bit, you're more than welcome to. And you can also combine this with any other thing. So if you wanted to use the flowers and the alphabet somehow, I mean, you would have to create 2 different ones to, you know, have 6 total, but you can use the alphabet and the flowers together. And so for the third, I'd like you to use your body somehow. You can either use your fingers, your hands, you can, if you wear glasses, I consider my glasses to kind of be part of my body because I wear them every single day. You could also use your hair. Let's see what else. I don't know if you'd necessarily want to take your shoes off and use your feet, but I would limit it to something that's fairly simple, like just kind of laying your head down and just getting the silhouette of your hair, or using your fingers in any which way and things like that. And so for 4, 5, and 6, those are all open. So you're welcome to experiment with other objects and objects that you bring. And so I would like you guys to have 3 objects when it's your turn to begin the darkroom. And so you'll be bringing objects in from home as soon as possible. Again, just looking for reflective surfaces. Some of you experimented with some really cool objects just for our sun prints. If you want to do that again and try to, use the same necklace or whatever it is that you use that worked really well, please do. Fabrics could be cool, especially if there's like lace involved or things that are a little bit more transparent. And you can even take a piece of notebook paper and write on it, and that could be part of your photogram. It would be interesting to see how opaque the letters show up and maybe the lines of the paper, or even if there's if you have like a tissue paper almost with like some kind of a design on it, we could even see how that would turn out. So the possibilities are really endless here. So bring in at least 3 objects outside of the room. So my flowers don't count, or anything that is in the classroom. I would like you just 3 things, no big deal, and get ready to experiment. So this will be your upcoming assignment. So I look forward to see what you guys have to come up with. So we'll be doing demos in class, and thank you for listening to this presentation. And that is all.